My name's now irrelevant, but for context, I'm 34, and for 15 years, my family sent hundreds of Christmas cards every December, without me in a single one, not once. When I finally asked my father why, he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "You don't photograph well with us." No explanation, no apology, just that. And then, this past November, my mother called. Out of nowhere, they wanted me in the Christmas photo. After a decade and a half of being erased, suddenly, I was welcome. I arrived at the studio 30 minutes early. What I overheard through that closed door made me turn and walk away without a word. And what I mailed to my grandmother 3 days later, it made my sister call me screaming at 2 in the morning. But to understand why I did what I did, I have to take you back 15 years, to the first Christmas I was written out of my family's story. I was 19, a freshman home from college, naive enough to believe my family was normal. Mom announced over breakfast that we'd be taking professional photos downtown at Harrison's studio. "Wear something nice," she said, spreading jam on her toast. I spent hours picking out a forest green sweater dress, carefully doing my makeup and curling my hair, things I rarely bothered with back then. At the studio, a man with a camera looked up, frowning slightly. Mom smiled at me, that polished smile she reserves for strangers. "Serena's just here to watch, right, honey?" I froze. I thought we were all getting photographed. Dad grabbed my elbow and steered me into the hallway. His grip was firm, deliberate. "You don't photograph well with us," he murmured. "Something about the lighting. The cards need to be perfect." I protested, but he released my arm. "You just wait outside." I sat in the lobby for 45 minutes, watching through the glass as they positioned my parents and Megan. They laughed at something the photographer said. Megan tossed her blonde hair and posed like she'd been doing it her whole life. On my way to the bathroom, I caught my reflection in a mirror. The studio lights highlighted my face perfectly. There was no problem. There had never been. 3 years later, I graduated magna cum laude in accounting, having worked 2 jobs to pay for textbooks my parents claimed they couldn't afford. I pulled all-nighters in the library while Megan posted beach vacation photos from Cancun, a graduation gift from mom and dad for finishing her freshman year. At the ceremony, I walked across the stage, diploma in hand, every ounce of exhaustion and triumph compressed into a single moment. Afterward, I found my family in the crowd. Dad had his phone out. Mom adjusted Megan's sundress. "Let's take some pictures," she chirped. Megan, 19 and barely finished with her first year, posed endlessly. 47 photos. I counted. When I asked to take one with my diploma, Mom said, "Oh, we'll get yours later, Serena. The light is perfect for Megan right now." They never took mine. I begged a stranger to snap a single photo. That night, I returned home to find a new 8x10 frame on the living room wall, Megan grinning in her sundress, fountain sparkling behind her. My diploma sat ignored on the counter. That December, I saw the Christmas card proof on Mom's desk. Megan stood between my parents, radiant in red, no empty space for me, 3 people forming a perfect unit while I existed outside of it. For years, someone had been sending me something every holiday, something I wouldn't discover for 12 more years. By 28, I had a life that didn't need my family's approval. Senior accountant at Morrison & Wells, a small apartment I decorated myself, a savings account growing steadily. I met Marcus at a gallery opening. He was photographing. I was there for a spare ticket. Kind eyes, paint-stained fingers, and a smile that reached all the way up. 3 months in, he asked to see family photos. I went silent. "Everyone has family photos," he said gently. "In my family," I whispered. "I'm the one who doesn't exist in them." He didn't ask for details, he just held my hand. That night, I realized that by accepting my invisibility, I'd made it permanent. Every Christmas card, every family photo that left me out, I'd let them write me out of my own story. If I stayed silent forever, I would die, as the daughter who never was. A few weeks later, Marcus said something while we walked in the park. "I photograph wealthy families sometimes, and the ones obsessed with perfection are always hiding something ugly." I thought of the flawless Christmas cards, the coordinated outfits, the smiles that never included me. What were my parents so desperate to project, and for whom? Grandma Eleanor had always been a mystery. She lived alone upstate, surrounded by books and old photographs. Mom rarely let me see her. "She's tired," Mom would say. Yet, every birthday, every Christmas, a card or gift arrived from her in spidery handwriting. Until I turned 20, then letters went unanswered. Mom said Grandma needed space. It felt like another rejection. Aunt Ruth, Mom's quieter, kinder sister, changed everything. At 29, we bumped into each other at a farmer's market. "Your grandmother asks about you constantly," she said, examining a tomato. My stomach dropped. Mom intercepts things, letters, calls, for years. Grandma thinks I abandoned her, and she's heartbroken. Something had been stolen from me, and I was just realizing how much. Then, November came. Mom called me out of the blue. "We're doing Christmas photos next Sunday. We want you there this year." 15 years of erasure, and suddenly I was worthy. I kept my voice neutral, accountant voice. Grandma Eleanor, she's not well. She wants the whole family together. Silence stretched. So, you'll come? Mom asked. I needed to think. I called Marcus. What do you think? He warned me. Something's wrong. People don't change that fast without a reason. You could say yes and find out what they're really after. I remembered Aunt Ruth's words, the intercepted letters, the missed calls, 15 years of being written out. I decided to go, but on my terms. Early, observing, listening before they knew I was there. The next morning I called Aunt Ruth. No preamble. Mom invited me, I said. Yes, she sighed. Grandma Eleanor has been in hospice for 2 months, reviewing her affairs. She's been asking questions. Why you're never in photos. Why you never visit. Why you never answer letters. Fury boiled inside me. Lies. Ruth continued. Your mother told her you're estranged, that you chose to distance yourself, but Eleanor is starting to suspect the truth, and her estate, about $4 million, is at stake. Everything clicked. The reason for my sudden inclusion wasn't goodwill, it was control, manipulation. And now, I had a choice. I would show up, but on my terms. And for the first time in 15 years, I had the upper hand. Clarity hit me like ice. They hadn't wanted me in the photo because they missed me. They hadn't wanted me because they finally valued me. They needed me as a prop, evidence of a perfect family that never existed, a performance for a dying woman. I called Aunt Ruth, my voice steady despite the storm inside. They're not getting away with this. She asked what I'd do. I'll tell Grandma the truth, I said. That night, Marcus and I sat at my kitchen table. You're really doing this? He asked, not judging, just confirming. I pulled a cardboard box from under my bed. 15 years of Christmas cards, every single one since I was 19. Where did you get these? He asked, eyebrows raised. Neighbors, Dad's coworkers, Mom's book club, anyone who'd give me a copy. I spread them across the table. Year after year, the same pattern. Mom, Dad, Megan, perfect, complete. Me, never. Why keep them? Marcus asked. I didn't know. Part of me sensed someday someone would need proof. I carefully organized them into an album, placing photos of myself from each year alongside the cards. 19, holding a textbook in my dorm. 22, diploma in hand, alone. 25, at my first job, standing in a cubicle. Side by side, their curated perfection against my erased reality. Copies of Grandma Eleanor's letters were added too, correspondence I'd never received, the evidence of 15 years of deliberate deception. At the front, a letter I wrote, Grandma, I thought you'd forgotten me. I was wrong. Here's the truth. I've always loved you. Sunday arrived. I wore the red dress Mom had specified, checked my reflection, and reminded myself, I've always looked fine, better than fine. Marcus dropped me a block away from Harrison's studio. 30 minutes early, I slipped through the side entrance. The lobby was empty, soft Christmas music drifting through speakers. Peering through a slightly ajar door, I saw them. Mom, Dad, Megan, setting up props, artificial snow, red backdrop, Mom's voice, clipped and businesslike. Megan sounded incredulous. She's actually coming? Then I heard the truth, every word like a knife. 1 hour of pretending we're a happy family, Mom said. Dad's deep voice followed. The will is $4 million. We play nice for one afternoon. Then Serena disappears again. Mom laughed softly. She's always been a prop, sweetie. She just never knew it. My hand flew to my mouth. A blank space in the mock-up card. A puzzle piece they'd borrow when convenient. Megan giggled, desperate. I stepped back, listening. They thought I was pathetic, desperate for inclusion. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I pushed the door open. Silence. Mom froze mid-gesture, holding the proof card. Dad went blank. Megan's mouth fell open. I stood there, my voice calm even. Early, Mom managed, regaining a mask-like smile. We weren't expecting... I know, I said. I held up a finger. 4 million. Another finger. She disappears again. A third finger. Desperation flashed across Megan's face. Dad stepped forward. Now, Serena, let's not overreact. I met his gaze. I'm not overreacting. I'm finally reacting appropriately. You're misunderstanding the situation. Mom's tone sharpened. We wanted you here. Always have. Really? I gestured at the mock-up card. Is that why you designed it with a blank space? So you could insert me and delete me at will? Silence. 15 years of erasure, spoken aloud, exposed. I had heard everything, and now I was finally seen. 15 years erased, and the only reason they wanted me now was to trick a dying woman into believing in a family that never existed. That's not true, Megan started. I'm done. I cut her off, turning toward the door. Don't contact me again. Mom's voice snapped, sharp and brittle. If you walk out that door, don't ever come back. I paused at the threshold, looked over my shoulder. Mom, I was never really allowed inside to begin with. I stepped into the December sunlight. Marcus was waiting by the curb. He glanced at my face and opened the passenger door without a word. Drive, I said. We have a package to send. We headed straight to Aunt Ruth's house. She was on the porch, as if she'd been expecting me. The photo shoot didn't go as planned, she asked. I climbed out, carrying the album from the back seat. 15 years of evidence, bound in leather. I need to get this to Grandma. But Mom will intercept anything you send, Ruth said slowly. Her eyes shone with resolve. I visit Eleanor every Tuesday and Thursday. I can bring it myself. I handed her the album. You'll do this, Serena? She asked. Yes, I said. Marcus helped add the final touches. Copies of Grandma's intercepted letters, photos showing the timeline, everything organized, chronological, undeniable. Are you sure? Marcus asked quietly as Ruth prepared to leave. She deserves the truth, I said. I watched her car pull away. 15 years of lies, gone. I didn't know what Grandma would do. Part of me hoped she'd understand. Part of me feared she'd believe Mom's version instead. But I was done hiding. At least she'll decide based on reality, not the fiction Mom created, I said. That night, sleep barely touched me. Somewhere 3 hours away, my grandmother was about to learn that the granddaughter she thought abandoned her had been stolen from her instead, and nothing would ever be the same. 3 days crawled by. Then Tuesday evening, my phone rang. Aunt Ruth. She'd seen it. She'd seen everything. Her voice choked with fury. I gripped the counter to steady myself. Tears, but not of sadness. Rage, disbelief, relief. My baby. They kept my baby from me, she repeated. 15 years of letters intercepted, love blocked, evidence she could no longer deny. Ruth called Diane. I didn't hear the conversation, but Diane screamed afterward, furious about destroying the family. What's Grandma going to do? I asked. Ruth's voice softened. She knows you weren't after money, she said. Serena was just trying to be seen, and I failed to see her for 15 years. She wanted to see me. Thursday. The hospice was quieter than expected. Soft colors, gentle lighting, faint antiseptic, the scent of flowers. A nurse led me to room 14. My grandmother sat in a wheelchair by the window, album open on her lap. Even from the doorway, she was studying it. Her eyes, still sharp, memorized my face. Serena, she said, thin but warm. My beautiful girl. I knelt beside her. Her hands trembled as she cupped my face. You didn't abandon me. You were kept from me, she whispered. Tears streamed down both our faces. I thought you didn't want to hear from me. I know now, Grandma. I know. She pulled me into an embrace. Lavender and old books, just as I remembered. Finally, she gestured to the album. I signed new papers this morning. Not for money, she said, pressing a small envelope into my hand. For truth. I've written letters to everyone explaining what's happened. They'll understand that a family built on lies isn't a family at all, and I always knew which granddaughter truly loved me. I paused to take it in. Was sending the album without confronting my parents first right or wrong? I'd chosen truth over confrontation, and the consequences were about to explode. At 2 a.m., my phone lit up. Megan. I answered on the third ring. What did you do? Her scream pierced the quiet. Marcus stirred beside me. Hello to you too, Megan, I said calmly. Grandma sent letters to everyone. Dad's pacing, Mom's crying. Actually crying, Megan shrieked. I kept my voice steady. I told Grandma the truth. Her laugh was sharp, hysterical. You destroyed us. You showed her the cards, the letters, the proof. You're supposed to be family. Am I? I asked quietly. Families don't erase each other. Families don't intercept letters for 15 years. Families don't call each other props. Silence. Grandma cut Mom's share in half, giving most to me and Aunt Ruth. Megan's voice cracked. You got what you wanted. What I wanted, I said slowly, was for Grandma to know I never abandoned her, to see me, really see me, before she dies. The money was never the point. I looked at Marcus. I won't apologize for telling the truth. If the truth destroys something, it wasn't worth protecting. The next morning, Dad called. Cold, calculated. You've made a serious mistake, Serena. Good morning, Dad, I said evenly. I showed Grandma the truth. If it damages the family, maybe it was already broken. 15 years of maintaining appearances, erased letters, and fake smiles, and you call that stability? I laughed, no humor in it. That's cruelty. You don't understand? I do. You needed perfection, and I didn't fit the frame. Silence. Then his voice softened, almost coaxing. Eleanor left you a significant portion. If you spoke to her, we could work something out. I let it hang. You're trying to negotiate with me, just like you tried to use me as a prop. I'm done. Don't call me again. If you hang up, it's finished. I thought of 15 years of empty spaces, letters that never arrived, and for the first time in my life, I felt the weight of being truly seen. 15 years of being erased, 15 years of silence, and finally, truth reclaimed. Aunt Ruth's calls filled me in, chaos for my parents and Megan, but clarity and justice for Grandma Eleanor. Diane cried endlessly. Harold tried to contest the estate, no chance. Eleanor's decisions were solid, her mind evaluated and lucid. Diane and Megan went from 40% each to barely 15% combined. Harold got nothing. The rest, Ruth and I. Eleanor's reasoning was simple. She wanted the people who truly loved her to inherit, not those obsessed with image. Christmas arrived quietly, simply. Marcus and I spent Christmas Eve with Aunt Ruth, cooking and watching old movies. On Christmas morning, a card appeared in my mailbox. No return address, but unmistakable handwriting. It was this year's Carter family Christmas card. I studied it carefully. Mom, Dad, Megan, front and center. But their smiles were forced, puffy eyes, tense jaws. Megan stood slightly apart, arms crossed. No cheerful caption, no happy holidays, just season's greetings. No empty space for me. They tried to fake a perfect family again, but even in a photo, their emptiness was visible. Marcus came up behind me, coffee in hand. They look miserable, I said. Does that make you happy? He asked. No, I admitted. Sad, but not for me anymore. For them. 15 years ago, they cut me out. Now, the absence I left spoke louder than my presence ever could. On December 27th, we visited Grandma Eleanor. She wore a soft blue cardigan, album on her nightstand. She hadn't let it out of her sight since Ruth delivered it. Ruth arrived early. We took a real photo together, me kneeling, Grandma smiling, Marcus behind us, warm hand on my shoulder. Grandma looked at the screen. This is what family looks like, she said. Imperfect, real, full of love. She pressed a small envelope into my hand. Inside was a photograph, her holding newborn me. Serena, the light of my life, she whispered. You were never invisible to me. That was our first real Christmas together. Grandma Eleanor passed on March 3rd, peacefully, clutching that photograph. At the funeral, my parents and Megan sat across the aisle. No words, no eye contact. Megan approached afterward, looking smaller, fearful. Can we talk? She asked. I forgave her gently. Forgiveness doesn't mean a relationship. It means peace for me. I touched her arm, a final gesture. Find what you're looking for, but not through me. A month later, the estate settled. Grandma left me the brownstone upstate, Ruth the same. My parents and Megan received a modest sum, enough to live, not enough to matter. But the treasure was the wooden chest Ruth found, decades of photographs documenting Eleanor's life. Among them, a 1965 family holiday photo. Teenage Eleanor stood at the edge of the frame, outside the circle, just like me. I showed Marcus. The cycle ends with me, I whispered. We promised. Our children, if we have any, will always belong in every photo, every story. 8 months later, the brownstone is my sanctuary. Photos line the walls, friends, chosen family, moments we treasure. Above the fireplace, the photo from the hospice, Ruth, Marcus, Grandma Eleanor, and me. Imperfect, real, ours. The Carter Christmas cards of my childhood once said I didn't matter. I know now. I always did. My parents never contacted me after the funeral, nor did Megan. The silence is no longer painful. It's peace. I've learned that love cannot be forced. You can't perform your way into someone's family. But you can build a new family, one based on truth, presence, and love. They erased me from their photos, but never from my story. If you've ever felt invisible, erased, or dismissed, know this. It isn't your fault. One day you'll find people who see you clearly, who make space for you, who never ask you to disappear. That's my story. Now I want to hear yours. Have you ever felt erased by your own family? Tell me in the comments. You are not alone. You never were. And if this story resonated with you, subscribe, hit the bell, and check the description for similar stories. Share where you're watching from and what you'd have done in my place. This is about seeing yourself, finally.